Hi, welcome to Ashoka Changemakers panel discussion on Reimagine Learning. We are holding a small session with the Reimagine Learning Challenge pioneers, who are actually the finalists of the challenge that we hosted on changemakers.com. And we want to hear from them their views on how play can improve learning and can actually develop into more responsible citizens. Giving a little bit of on like why this entire view is so important. So there is a growing demand in the workplace for innovative solutions because today our society is facing a lot of challenges, and for young people to stand out and kind of change the world, it is really necessary that they imbibe the education the way they do, in a way that it is not only knowledge, but it is also a true learning. So play actually plays a very critical role in establishing the vital early stage skills, which carries on all through their life, and they're able to actually make use of that skills in giving everyday solution to any societal challenges or any professional challenges or any kind of challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis. So on this we have with us a very learned panel from our Reimagine Learning Challenge that we hosted a few months back on changemakers.com. We have with us Fransiska Oetami and Arangi also, since I can see Arangi, and Arangi also. And they have a very interesting solution that they are working on in Indonesia. We have Sheena from Philippines, who has a very interesting approach of working in the rural education, rural schools in Philippines. And we have Sonal Kapoor, who uses the digital media, or I will say the multimedia, creatively to kind of enhance learning. So let's hear one by one from them about their views around how the structural opportunities for play available around children can actually help in better decision making, and how can we create a more consistent terminology around learning through play, and also spread the methods to create the impact of initiatives that foster creativity and imagination. So first, we'll like to hear from Fransiska Oetami. So it will be great if you can give a little bit of introduction about yourself and your work, and then your views on the question that we are here to discuss today.
Okay, so everybody can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Our program is called Clevio Camp, and we're using game to motivate children to learn programming. That's in the simplest way. At the same time, we use several methods that include project-based learning to help to get the children to work together in designing their games using programming, and also we incorporate character building and entrepreneurship into the program as well. So while the children are working on their programs to build their games, at the same time they're learning to communicate, to build their social skills, their empathy, and also presentation skills, and also entrepreneurship. So that's a little bit about our program. Do you want to add?
Yeah, so the goal of Clevio Camp is not just to teach them the programming skills. There are four goals. The first is teach them logic from the computer algorithm, critical thinking and such. Two is to let them have a platform to play with what they learn in schools, the academic knowledge such as math, science, physics, and such. It's wonderful they learn good knowledge in school, but the knowledge they learn in school is not supposed to be just for tests or for grades. They need a place to apply it into something that's in their world, which is play. And third is the social skill, psychosocial skill, where they, like Siska said, the character building by working in teams as designer, programmer, and project manager. where they have the opportunity to debate, to exchange ideas, and then come to a compromise, what they can make together in such limited time. Uh, and then in the end is the entrepreneurship, where the games they make is not just for themselves, but they will have to learn to sell it. And I also think about what greater good comes out of the other people that plays that game. Why would the other people pay and play that game? To convince their parents to invest money into buying that game. So those four benefits are, again, logic, the academic play, the psychosocial development, and then the entrepreneurship. So.
Great, thank you so much. So, Siska and Arangi both, can you also tell a little bit of, like, how? So the key question is, what will it take to structure opportunities for play available to children around the world? How do you think decision makers, the formal schooling system, actually also value this entire cognitive approach, or the play approach in learning? Because there's so much of focus in academics, there's so much of focus in literacy, numeracy. So how do you think this particular play is going to be shown as an important element of learning?
Yeah. I'll answer I think we understand the second question. I want to answer that first. That it was difficult, just like what you said. Most academic institutions focus on grades, focus on the academic curriculum. It was hard. It's just our second year. It was very hard in first year to get our ideas across. But we were lucky enough to get some influence in schools as open. There's what's called Nature School. Yeah. That's into alternative learning. Another one is international school that wants to establish themselves. So we found partners that is open to doing something different. And along that side, we tried to go to conventional schools, and it was like an uphill climb to get there. But nowadays, after our second year, we work already with 7 schools, some international, some local. We see that next semester we have 14 schools to work with us together, and we have thought about now we have 200 students running to convince the parents to send their kids to learn games. It's also a paradigm shift. Most parents see that games as something that's evil. there are some evil games. I mean, to be honest, but I guess it's a two-sided sword. Yeah, you can use it for benefit, or you can use it for bad things, and it's just we have to learn how to use it.
So if we see that we can either partner, like there are different sites, different sections that are responsible for the kids. There's the school. The school will follow whatever the government says in terms of how to what to focus children's learning to, and then there are also parents. For us, we find it that it's probably more difficult. We have to see changes in the Department of Education to change their focus from so much literacy and numeracy to play. But then we also see parents' views also changing. We're meeting parents who are starting to learn more about what is it that can help their children to get more excited about learning. And apparently, the school system is not giving them enough motivation. So, and we're partnering with those parents to help other parents to change their views that, we cannot make children to study, to learn the way we used to when we were little, especially now with technology, with video games. Their minds are different. They think differently. They play differently. But then there's also those basic ideas where children love to play, children love to explore, they love to create games, and that's where the creativity and innovations come from. So we're trying to combine that technology and the love of play and also learning into our program, and hopefully that way, we'll see how children flourish in that environment.
Can you repeat the first question that you asked?
Oh,
yeah.
You're still
Sorry,
you're still in mute.
You're still in mute, Indrani.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. So the first question is actually like, what does it take to structure opportunities, around play, so that, the education system is imbibing it. So that was the first question. The second question you understood more easily, where we asked you, like, how play can be like a better methodology than literacy, but what will it take people to accept play as a methodology? So that's what the first question was.
To accept play as a methodology.
Yes. So if you want to think a little bit about that, we can meanwhile get on to Sonal and get her to speak, and then we can discuss this, because I think that the first question takes a little bit of better deep dive, because your community, you will like to think, like, what in formal school systems and policies, like, how can it have a better impact so that it's more integrated in the mainstream education. So Sonal, we know that you have a challenge with your mic. So what we are going to do is we are going to dial you in, and so Sonal actually runs a program in India which is called Protsahan. So I'm just dialing in Sonal so that she's able to tell a little bit about her work, and then share a little bit of views around how you have used the creative media for engaging children, and how the learning has been bettered off through that.
Hello?
Yes, Sonal, we can hear you.
All right. Great. Good evening. It's evening time in India. I'll start with a little bit about what we do at Protsahan. It basically is everything about using creative arts, using a lot of media and technology to empower young at-risk adolescent girls. Now, when I say at risk, these are kids from brothels, these are kids from the streets, these are primarily kids that I'm talking about who have absolutely no access to leave alone a private school, but even a basic government school. So these are the children who have had no formal system of education that they've been subjected to. And how do you work with a child who's about 10, 12, 14 years of age, been on the street, and has no absolute understanding of friends, or what a classroom or a school would look like, etc. And then how do we use this creativity of media, technology, filmmaking, photography, all of that to talk about life skills based education, and then finally churn that entire process to a stage where it takes up a stage, takes up a level of giving that kid, once she's 14, 15, 16 years of age, a basic vocational, angle to the entire training, so that she ends up with a livelihood. So see, also, when you're working with a lot of, I think Indrani had mentioned somewhere where, what structure can you give something like this? I very strongly believe if you're talking about play, and if you're talking about how to use play to impact a child, you also have to non-negotiably also talk about empathy. Because if you do not make this approach individual centric, of course you have to take things to scale because of the mandates that we guys are working in. We're talking about not just lakhs or millions of kids, but billions of kids across the world who need an approach like that. So very strongly I feel also when you say just empathy, you're somewhere miscalculating or not looking at the scale approach of it. But with the kind of problem we have to look at empathy and we have to look at scale both together. Also, when you're looking at play and what approach that Protsahan follows is we use a lot of technology, for example, or creative arts, where we talk visual arts, where she's making a painting on a larger than life level. So we will not talk about painting or artwork that's done on a paper, which could qualify as a drawing sheet or a drawing. Yeah, we are taking it to a level where it's done on a mural, by a set of kids, who see their art form as something which is larger than life. Yeah, the impact of it, the psychosocial impact of it is so much more different. They're having fun while playing with colors. They're having fun while using all sorts of color therapy and things that we involve. But well, the most important thing, it's larger than life, at least in the visual sense of the thing. Second, for one of these campaigns where UNICEF India had partnered with us, we were talking about the issue of open defecation, yeah, and how we use the approach of play to this entire angle was the children that I'm talking about were about 14, 15 years of age, and they ended up making a film on this entire thing. So it took about 6 months, but in the end, they came up with a beautiful film where they talked about how, things like the fact that India is a country that practices open defecation. More than 600 million people practice open defecation. But the issue was looked at from the angle of a child or a 14, 13, 12-year-old girl. So two things, when we're talking about playfulness and you're talking about sensitivity and empathy, I'm solving not just the issue that the child faces, but a community larger than that faces, but you're getting the voice of the child to, come out through the perspective of play. That's another angle we could look at it. And in the end, two things came out. One, the voices of children, which are never heard, or the voices of adolescents, less than 14, 13, 15 years of age, they never heard. But through this media, which was technology and play combined, and digital media, their voices came to the forefront on Twitter, on YouTube, and the entire country watched it. The video was watched by more than 2,000 different children in just one day. And if you look at the impact in the last 1 year, what it has made, it's reached out to more than 60,000 people. Now the idea is, again, you get technology, you get play, you get creative media. It's not just the people who are a part of the process, who are doing who are playing, etc. But the minute you bring technology, digital, and all of that angle, you can take that play or the playfulness to another platform and make so much more of a larger impact. So that's the idea, or that's the philosophy that we believe in, that play should not, we agree how important it is for play to just be play, but if it can, for a kid on the street, if it can be so much more sustainable also as an option, where sustainability or these words are not just used as words, but they actually make so much sense, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, when the kid is not just playing Sudoku, but she's also learning computers, and she can take her, the angle of theater and play and filmmaking, all of that, to solve issues larger in the community. I think it's so much more, impactful.
Thank you so much, Sonal. So that was truly kind of enlightening for us, and I'm sure that this is a unique work that you're doing. So Sonal, I'm just going to disconnect you at the moment from Skype, and I'm going to connect you back when we start discussing the general question. So meanwhile, let's go on to Shaina. Shaina is doing very interesting work in another context with rural schools in Philippines. So we'd like to hear a little bit about your work and your opinion.
Okay. Well, I run Jeepneed, which is a mobile science lab, and we bring hands-on science activities to rural public schools. So the lab that we're building, we started with something that's on wheels, going from school to school in rural areas and handling the activities ourselves. But we realized that the value was in the content that we were bringing and the mentors, the positive mentors we were bringing to the public schools. So we entered in a more formal setting compared to the other, to your projects, your wonderful projects. And we experienced that uphill climb also. Like, how do you work with the government? How do you work with public schools that are used to working in a particular way? And our activities are a little bit more open-ended than the typical textbook class. So while we bring low-cost materials like $4, $6 microscopes that let students look at plant cells, we also give them activities that connect what they read in a textbook and what they see around them. So many of our students are children of farmers or fishermen, and important lessons in chemistry for them aren't just memorizing the table of elements, but understanding the relevance of acidity and basicity, and how that affects the soil that their parents use. It's also knowing the size of fish that they should catch and what size is healthy or unhealthy and what that says about the ecosystem. So you see kids with rulers measuring fish and catching people who are selling fish that are too small or too big. Sorry, too small, and telling them, well, this fish is too small, you shouldn't have caught it, or it may be because the environment is polluted. So engaging with the content that way. And there are lots of lessons about the ecosystem and biology through that experience. Um, and our goal as we build all our activities is actually to bring all rural public schools a lab that costs $300. So all the full experience of a science lab at a very, very low cost. And we're on our way towards building that. So we have grade 3 and 4 and 5 curriculum content matched, and we're very close to completing the full school year. We also measure, initially we measure our progress using tests, of course, pre and post tests, but we also wanted to look at creativity. So we gave them tests where they had to think of how many things they could make out of one thing. And we see all their ideas change and grow because they have more hands-on experience with materials. That's just the short story of Jeepneed.
Thank you so much. So I think that, the common thing between all three of you countries is that all of you are using clay as a technique to get across education and knowledge, imbibe knowledge. So let's come back to the first question, and feel free to kind of, Sonal, I'm going to join you through Skype. What will it take to make structured opportunities for play available to children around the world? So that's the important question. Like, how do we influence decision makers to appreciate the social, cognitive, physical, emotional, and creative skills just as important? So as like, the mainstream education, because as of now, these are all unique approaches, but they are still not the mainstream education. So what do you think? How can we make that happen? Sonal, I'm just connecting you, so you feel free to kind of get your views on get us your views.
We may start.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes. For sure. Please, Shaina, go ahead.
We realized that it would be much easier to reach the public school teachers and department heads and other people we had to convince, not by going first by going through the principals, so the people we meet right away. And then we also saw that something that they needed was to see how what we were providing aligned with their own requirements. So they like it because we were able to match the fish ruler activity with with more traditional lessons on the ecosystem. So we sort of underlined, this is the Department of Education standard you are meeting by doing this, which helped it, made it easier to pitch it to principals and department heads and get them to be more confident telling it to their bosses and feeling like they'll still look good. And for teachers, we saw that the first thing we had to make them feel is that they should just try it first. Don't give them everything. Just try. Try just one small part of doing an activity. So try just working in groups. Try this, and then come back to us and tell us what problems you had and what things delighted the kids. And that's helped us, and then from there build on that experience. Oh, okay, you liked it or you didn't like it. What was wrong? Here's what more we can do. So sort of that step-by-step approach with the teachers, and then also on the government side, aligning it with how it makes them look good and what the bosses are looking for. The teachers also really like it because then they can do demonstrations in front of them and then potentially get a positive check mark and say, okay, I look good in front of my department head because I'm now teaching in this new way.
That was interesting. So before I call Sonal in, because this Skype was causing a little bit of an issue, so let's first hear it from Siska also. So Siska, how do you think your work you've been able to influence other than just the parents, the other educational institute or government, or the mainstream system? How have you been able to, how your work has been able to kind of, impact?
Well, going beyond what we've been see, we've been working with parents. We give seminars and parent talks to introduce, and we're also partnering with other groups like parents who are uh, like homeschooling communities, those who are looking into alternative ways besides the formal education institutions to help their kids learn. And we partner with them, and then we partner with those who are looking into positive gaming, positive use of technology. And we partner with those, and we give seminars and parenting talks about um, how can we combine this technology and all this energy that kids put into playing games, and what do they get out of it? And with the support of like homeschooling communities and uh, like what do you call educators who are also looking into different ways of working with children, and we're able, I think, slowly we're changing minds. Right now, usually parents who send their kids to us, they're usually looking for ways to harness their kids' uh, game addiction. Yeah. They're trying to find positive ways to to bring their kids' interest in games instead of just playing, and maybe they can start making games. But it has been an uphill battle for us. We haven't really approached the governments at this time. We're mainly focusing on changing the parents' views about playing and about games and about technology. And I think maybe from there we will be able to gain enough support and becoming more visible
Okay.
with the government. So,
I guess in short, we we tried both first. Tried to get the low hanging fruits and the uphill battle, but it turns out that once we do enough work with the low hanging fruits, with the like-minded parents or parents who have the pain with the children with game addiction. Even the parents have game addiction, uh, and then you turn them around to be fans. They become fans, and they become our salesmen. We have 4 branches now. 3 of them are provided by the parents who have sent their kids here. They like us so much. They allow us to use their office, their space that we would have to pay rent otherwise. They help us market. One of our client, where our parent has magazine, and then now every month they advertise our service for free, the magazine. And then there's schools going from one principal to another principal. So I guess we try to grow the virality of it. We get invited to media, to seminars, and we don't have a lot of money to market ourselves. Marketing is very expensive and very difficult. So I guess we just go with the flow. I guess if we just do our work honestly and be genuine with our vision and keep delivering it, the good works will spread out.
Great.
And hopefully someday the government will take a look at us and invite us to help.
Yes. Yes, certainly. So I'm calling you again, Sonal. So we know, Sonal, your work is creatively engaging with the young children to kind of, give them a voice. But how that has been integrated into the mainstream education, or how can that be integrated into the mainstream education? I'd like to hear a little bit. Or if not education, how can we influence those stakeholders who have something to do with the mainstream education? Let's hear about that. I'm just calling you.
Hello?
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think one of the most important things is that I personally don't feel that something like this where play is being used, etc., is not being done. But I think it's being done in a very unorganized manner, and it's being done in silos. Somebody, for example, is using only a part of technology, to or for example, games. Yeah. Somebody is just using creative arts. Somebody is just using maybe, let's say, I don't know, some sort of theater. Somebody's just using maybe some sort of computers. Yeah, it all, or maybe somebody's just using blog games. It all needs to be put in together. When I say put in together, one is to create a platform wherein 20 organizations, for example, who are using different of these different life skills like these, they all need to come on one platform to amplify the voice. Because see, a lot of people genuinely are doing honest work, great work, yeah, but they're doing it in silos. If we all come together to amplify that voices, those voices, be it on a national level, be it on, in fact, make, rather than just making it a talk, just at this particular platform, we can really walk the talk, as they say, by these 20 reimaginers or 10 reimaginers that we have on this particular Ashoka platform, with the Lego guys. If you all come together and say, okay, this is the agenda, this is what we're going to work for it, maybe give this entire thing a 2-year time frame or an 18-month time frame, and say, okay, let's reach out to XYZ number of organizations in our own domain, and let's all of us come together to amplify that voice. One, I think that needs to be done as a sector, and that too as a sector. When we talk of the non-profit sector, people who are using play or creative stuff are not many. Yet, in those, and even if they are in like silos. So if we all come together, I think that's going to be the first step, and which I think, I honestly believe, can start from this very platform. Second, I very strongly believe that what we don't give out impact in terms of stories enough. As people who are working in this space, we give so we're so used to the rigmarole of giving impact in terms of numbers, like because to sound fancy on our annual reports, or I might sound very blunt, but I think that's the reality. That is the sad reality, where we're just giving out numbers. But sadly, as I said in the beginning, if you're talking play or creativity, you have to talk quality. You have to talk, impact in terms of the empathy-based change that you've brought in, and that is only possible when you give out the stories well. Once the stories start coming out with an amplified voice of about 10 organizations or 20 or 40 organizations, and that particular stuff is given out on Twitter, on Facebook, we have all sorts of facilities available for us, free technology tools available to us. Those stories of impact, that have been transformed. Like, for example, we have worked with kids from brothels, or kids who couldn't speak or hear, and how has creativity or the angle of filmmaking completely transformed them forever. Of course, it's taken us 2 or 3 years to work on, a set of kids. But I think those stories, if they come out well, there are enough people to, replicate the impact. I think that is what is lacking.
Thank you so much, Sonal. So now I think I will come to Sonal, I'm disconnecting you so that the audio is better for everyone. Okay, so now we come to a very important question, and also the last one for today's panel discussion, and think a little bit about it. How would you measure the impact of your work or any work that you do through play? For example, if you look at a mainstream curriculum, you do have annual examinations which shows that a child has actually performed to a certain level. There has been a learning, but through this creative methodology, how are you going to really measure what impact it has had on a child's imagination, or how the child has become more creative or something like that. So who will like to go first? I can see actually Siska smiling, so let's go to Siska. So probably we'd like to hear your views first.
Yeah. Um, well, yeah, we have this thing about the final, the annual examination that's keep going. Um, it, it, it's such a burden, I think, for the children. You know, in order to graduate from school, from primary school to secondary school, and then to graduate from high school, and then it seems like everybody's just gearing towards it. You know, just preparing themselves to pass that test, you know, and we see this problem here, we see it elsewhere, and then uh, because of that, a lot of the activities that they do outside of school is also trying to get them, you know, they take extra lessons just to get, you know, just to be able to pass those tests, and so, you know, answering your question, how do we measure? How do we measure the results, the success that we get? We have, I think, from our program, we have this long-term hope that probably will take years, you know, that we to observe and see what kind of results they have, because when, you know, when kids are learning how to work together, when kids are learning to communicate, to solve problems together, those are the skills that they have to build, and then the results they'll see when they start working, you know, when they actually start building their careers. But our coaches, we train our coaches to keep close observations of what's going on inside the groups, what are the dynamics within this little groups of 3 kids when they have problems, when they're working together, trying to solve their problems, when they're trying to solve their differences, you know, and we're trying. Those are the little successes that we see when we observe those kids, and then at the end, at a lot of kids, we also watch them change from a kid who, for example, are not used to share. You know, because there is, you know, at school they have computers all to themselves. At home they have the computer, they're only working on their own. And then here they have to share their computers, you know, and then they have to take turns. When the programmer is working with the computer, you as a designer, you cannot take over and do the work for them. So they try to hold themselves. So kids are learning that, you know, and that's the successes that we see. You know, a lot of times, sometimes schools will ask us to, you know, because we run the program as an extracurricular activities. Sometimes school would ask us to write report for them that they can give out at the end of this at the school year, and they ask us to grade.
How do you grade empathy?
How do you grade? Yeah. So we said, can we just write? We will write out what are the achievements that this kid has. You know, besides being able to make a game, to make a program and create a game. Like, for example, this kid is able to lead their friends. To manage their project, starting from research to design to program, and then at the end presenting their projects with the team. And then we also write about how a kid, for example, at first didn't want to having so many friends that they don't know, and they didn't want to work with anybody they didn't know, and then at the end of the program they're willing to work with everybody. Or a kid who is too shy to do presentation, and then at the end they're being able to present in English. You know, those are the things that we see at the end of the program, and we see that as something that, you know, maybe it's hard to measure, but then it's a really nice, like Shaina said, it's really good stories that we can share, and then it's actually mind-changing and sometimes life-changing for the kids, I think. So in terms of measurement, that's what we see, and then when we share that to the parents, when we share that to the teachers, we're hoping that they're able to see that also and able to encourage those change to hopefully benefit them when they grow up.
Three things I like to add, if I may. One is that the enemy is not the education system or the curriculum. The enemy, our common enemy in this, is standardization and grading. Those two things makes education, I think, inhumane. When people have to be the same, measured by the same yardstick. That's, I think, it's the bottom line of making human inhumane. Two is that I see that the conventional education system now, although it has served us well in the past with the current technology, the like Khan Academy, edX, all the information that's online and the touch of your hand, the current education is going to be obsolete. Maybe it has been obsolete for a few years now. It's going to be more and more obvious to the mainstream. 10 years, 20 years, maybe even 5 years from now, people are going to see that you don't have to memorize things anymore. You can get it in Google it in your hand. And then third things, to make those things obvious, we try to do that. Clevio Camp is our first project to show that in, I would say, in a small but spread out manner, because we can go into the existing schools without making our own schools. What we're going to make next year is a crowd school, a crowd-based school, not a community-based school, but a crowd-based school where the students can learn anywhere. They will learn collaboratively in project-based. The curriculum is going to be personal, although they're working together. Everybody will have their own curriculum. We start with the junior college level, like the high school level, where they're ready to apply things. Hopefully that becomes a model that people can see. We're trying to make it crowd-based so that a lot of people that has like-minded ideas, experienced professionals can become mentors, can mentor our children, and also if they want to help us with financing it, so it's going to be a crowd ownership. Hopefully that can, that it can be a bigger movement, like what the ideas I heard today. So those are the things. That grades and standards are our common enemy. Current school system is going to become obsolete, and third, we try to make a model of it as an example that people can copy in the crowd school.
Great. Thank you so much. So I also would like to now actually come to Sheena. Sheena, for your opinion, because I'm sure that, as already Siska said, that it is though easy for us to look at how the formal education system is easy to kind of show the progress, but necessarily that is not the way how it is, because students do go for extra coaching, they do go for extra assistance to kind of learn this, which is in the books. So I think that you are doing very interesting work where you are actually using labs. So how do you think that you can measure the impact?
We've done a few things around that. We do keep track of the standardized test scores, because even I think one of the winners, Riverside School, sees that as students play, their standardized test scores go up without teaching to the test, because they're more engaged in school and they like to go to school and they're more excited to learn. Just by that fact, I think there have been some studies that correlate being more engaged and being more involved to higher standardized test scores. I do want to measure creativity and critical thinking. And I think I've mentioned earlier that we've done a few tests where we see how many more ideas students can generate based on different situations. I really want to explore. I wanted to share one strategy a school that I also work with does when it comes to measuring skills. Because I think personalized report cards are great, but they're often very difficult for already stressed out teachers to write and to find the time to write. But this school has defined the skills that they want to watch and to promote within students. So proactiveness, compassion. So they defined what students should do, and then they allow teachers. They make sure teachers monitor students, and then sort of just do a tick mark beside. Okay, they did something that looks like this, and this is shows compassion. And it allows them to do it, in a bigger scale. So 12 schools, across 12 schools and thousands of students. I thought that was a great strategy. Um, Another thing that we're looking at in terms of measuring engagement with the students. So we want to turn students into people who collect data and make sense of information, which I think is another skill when it comes to being a scientist, not just memorizing knowledge, but looking at the things around you, making sense of information, and then translating it to what you know about your community. And with that, we've integrated students collecting information. So how many healthy fish and unhealthy fish have we been able to measure? And sending it to us, the teacher sending it to us via text, and then us getting back to them to tell them, okay, so in all of Capiz or in all of your area, this many students have measured this many fish and they've seen that so many fish are unhealthy. This is what it means to you. And then looking at students' reactions based on that and what they think. Wait, so there are more unhealthy fish in our area? What does that mean about my family that relies on fishing as a livelihood? So those are the stories that we hear from our end, in terms of of engaging with the content and the issues that surround them.
Interesting. So, so that's great. In the interest of the time, I'm going to connect back with Sonal. So, Sonal, you are doing more work, which is to do with the children who are not anyways getting formal education, or even if they are getting, this is an additional creative angle that you're adding. So, do you think that there has been any measures that you have seen which has actually led into, say, formal schooling, their interest in education, they'll end up being in schools, or they. So I'll just connect you, and I'd like to hear a little bit about how you have been measuring the learning curve of your beneficiaries.
Hello?
So yes, go ahead, Sonal.
Yeah. Hi once again. So, a couple of interesting things that we have seen. One, before I get into the scale and the, let me tell you that, the impact of what we've been trying to achieve has been so, if I can say so, amazing. Beyond a point that it's not just the kids that we're working from the streets or from, very, very challenging backgrounds. But the approaches that we've followed, it's funny that the best of public schools in India or in Delhi, and Mumbai have called us to, kind of say that, okay, this is what you've been doing with kids in the brothels or, in kids completely on the street, and we've seen an impact that with what you're trying to do. Why don't you come and replicate that little approach with our kids in, the best of public schools? Now, I think I would take that as, some sort of a, pat on the back for my team and I, where it's like the most grassroots approaches, if done right, irrespective for a kid in the school or outside of a school, if the impact is seen, it will be appreciated. And that's when an approach which was being done for 2 kids on the street has now moved on to a decent government school or a really great private public school, where it's going to reach to about 400, 500 odd kids in maybe 6 months time. Yeah, so something that you had only started working on as an idea with 2 or 10 or 15, 20 kids has now taken the shape of where an institution wants to replicate it. One. Two, in terms of measurement per se, we have our own little scale, which I'll be very happy to share with everyone. Where we have, as I think Shaina very rightly said, there needs to be some sort of standardized scoring that you need to have. Otherwise, you don't know at what level have you started with a child and at what level are you ending up, or has there, like, it's as simple as saying that if you don't measure, you have absolutely no clue of where you're trying to go. So I think a basic level of standardized scoring, which I think will also be very localized. So for example, if Shaina is trying to work with a very beautiful example that she gave, with the health of the fish that was being caught in an area, which actually escalated to this point of being, the kind of water that might be, that the community might be getting, or the family health of the community. Just the test scores will be standardized based on local situations or local circumstances. So what might hold good for me in India with a kid on the street, or with a marginalized child, might be very different from a kid in the rural community who has access to all resources but might not be very tech savvy. So standardization of scores is important, but that it has localized in context is what my idea is. But there has to be a standardized test scoring system to see that even if it's an empathy based, a play based approach, where is the impact that's being generated? Maybe you see with a set of kids, the impact is being generated maximum when you use technology based tools or game based tools. Maybe for a different set of kids who can't speak or hear, maybe, let's say for example, it's not technology, it's something which is so much more, where we use a lot of aroma therapy, a lot of color therapy. So for a kid who can't see, color therapy might not be the greatest option, but the aromatherapy that what we're trying to work with on different. So for example, very simple example I'll give you, there's this thing which we do, we involve coffee art. Now a kid who cannot see or hear or speak, when the minute she starts doing her art with coffee, yeah, or different little variations that we have, the standardization of test scores, her sensitivity levels, how is she responding to things, they're all very different. But the minute you localize that to the context, very individualized and customized for that specific child or community, I think that's when it starts making maximum sense.
Thank you so much, Sonal. So that's really enlightening. And Sonal, before because we are on the final stages of compiling this panel discussion, before we kind of end, I'd like to hear from you how you think through the Reimagine Learning Network you can actually collaborate to bring on, as you very rightly said, that there has to be this entire momentum where a child's assessment should not be so much on formal education basis. Even there should be equal weightage of all the learning that happens through play or creative methodology, and that should have equal weightage of what the child actually is able to apply and retain in terms of something that the child actually learns, is not just through knowledge, which is like from books or writing, but also by doing. So how, I would like to come on this question to each of you, but how do you think you can integrate with other reimaginers on our forum, or how you can work with everyone through a collaboration? I think we've lost you on Sky, but I'm going to call you back. So a little bit around that. So I think it has auto-dialed you.
Yeah. I got your question. I lost a bit of it, but I think I've pretty much got your question. And I think, Indrani, it's very crucial, as I said, as a sector, we guys need to amplify our voices. And the voices can only be amplified if we amplify the impact very qualitatively, as Siska was saying. I think individually, I don't know how many countries do the Reimaginers represent currently, but let's say from India, there are 2 or 3 of us, right? So Philippines, there are another couple of them, so I think in let's say we start as countries, start mobilizing people. I know there are like more than 25, 30 organizations in my country, in India, who are doing tidbits of stuff here and there, basis the play to learn approach, and they're doing splendid work. All that needs to be done is let them all get together on one platform. I think if Reimaginers or Ashoka can give us a platform or give us a, I think, encouragement on that level, that okay, individually, nation-wise, amplify your voices. We can come up with a little XYZ way to do it. But I think, and then gradually, as we imagine a community, get those voices together to come up with the impact stories. I think the tremendous qualitative change or sensitive changes happen, but they are not amplified, or even a 140 odd character tweet, it's not written down well. So stories need to come out, and reimagining or Ashoka community needs to kind of give us 10, 20, 30 individual people that kind of encouragement or a push that say, okay, we are right there, we're going to give you this platform, go ahead and talk about your stories, connect with another 5 people, try and take your project to this particular level. I think individually, our ideas are not, it's not about financing, it's not about me here, it's not, I think it's somewhere more about this, for example, this platform that we have today. I'd love to understand more of Siska's and Shaina's work, but if more 20 people or the rest of 17, if all of us understand each other's work and take it to another level, where I think the next time I'm speaking to somebody in India, I will refer to Shaina's and Siska's work of what they're trying to do in their countries, and somewhere the impact stories need to come out. And this Ashoka community or the Reimaginer community, as people who are doing this play to learn approach, it all needs to come together as, I don't know, maybe like I don't know, maybe as a platform or as a little booklet, or I don't know, which something which is more tangible that can be circulated, as an idea or an approach, which further can be scaled up.
Thank you so much. So thank you so much, Sonal. We will still like you to be on board with the video and hear Siska and Shaina. Meanwhile, I'm just disconnecting you from the Skype so that the audio quality is better for everyone. Thank you. So I'm now coming back to Siska on this last question at our end. How do you think that your work can actually you're able to kind of motivate the measurement at par with formal education? So how do you actually measure that through your approach a child is learning better than a formal school education? So we'd like to hear a little bit about that, and along with that, how you think that the Reimaginer community can actually help in globally voicing this entire play movement for improving learning in children.
So we, in terms of measuring achievements of students who have, or children who have been in our program, we haven't done anything formal on that, to compare whether kids are doing better in our program than in regular schools. I've seen a glimpse of something in one of the international schools. We have extracurricular activities that they have a weekly achievement. It's not achievement. A weekly award for students who have done exceptional in different areas in the class, in different subjects or in different areas in the classroom. Like, for example, for being helpful or being good in certain subjects. And there's this group of students who were in our program last year, and during one of the award day, all those students were awarded with because they have good understandings in math. And I'm not sure if that is I'm not 100% sure that it is because they were in our program, but it was good to see that how the kids that were in our program are getting, are doing really good in math.
We can justify whether it's cause and effect or coincidental, or they join our program because they are smart. Which comes first.
But yeah, in terms of engagement in the subject matters, interest in learning. We've seen kids who, like, for example, they don't know if in school when they're learning geography, the teacher would come up with textbook and a map and just start talking about things, that this is the locations of such and such cities and airports and stuff. And then the kids are just, they're sitting there and just trying to absorb all these things, all this information. Yeah, in our one of the game projects that we threw into the kids here in Coder Camp, we would ask them, okay, let's make a game about airplanes. The airplanes will have to travel for 10 seconds in 5 cities. We have 5 big islands in Indonesia. Each group will have to pick 5 cities in 5 different islands. They cannot have the same cities, and then each of those cities will have to have, or towns will have to have, an airport. So, and we didn't have to tell them, what those cities are, what are their options. They'll just, we just tell them, okay, go and find out, Google it up, look up Google Map, and search in Atlas or in Globes, and then they start searching. The enthusiasm is different than kids in classrooms learning geography traditional way. So, but in terms of measuring it, by grades, because we don't, we don't we don't grade them. We have no exams for them. It's kind of hard, but what we see is the enthusiasm, the engagement,
self-taught,
yeah,
self-learning.
And when the great things about project-based learning is that once we throw in the problem, everybody will just have to find out, do research. So that's what they're getting. Once they start thinking about what kind of games that they're going to make, they start thinking about, okay, what informations do we need to make these games? And then, the discussions, the noise, our classrooms are always noisy. And then the kids are always excited, and they're saying, oh, let's make it like this. Let's make a racing game. Let's make a, museum, haunted museum game, that kind of stuff. And then they're learning, they put in, what we threw at them is just a theme. Okay, it's going to be a history game. Let's make, and then they'll make, okay, let's make a museum game. What kind of history do you want to do? And then they start researching. And through the research and then gathering information, communicating with each other, there's so much engagement going on. There's so much enthusiasm going on. And that's, so far, that's what we see. That the kids are having so much fun in our program compared to when they're just learning the same subject matters in a classroom traditional way.
Another example, we have a child who ended up presenting in English in her team. She did not know English before because her team member knows English. She asked him, "Can you teach me English? Write down and how to say it, and then memorize it." And that's how do you measure that? And we have a child also that is deemed by his school to be
difficult.
as a difficulty to learning. Some say he's autistic. But he presented, and it was unbelievable to the parents to see him standing up in front of the class doing presentation because it's a game that he made that he loved, he wants to share. So that's why we think it's immeasurable, and the dimensions is way across. Some goes this way, some, and it's you can't measure everything by the same yardstick.
Absolutely, I do. There is no way to measure now. Yes. I'm passing on to from your specific that of measuring the work. How they gone up in the case. And how do you think you can showcase the work or work with the community of reimaginers better?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the first part of your question? The sound was going in and out. I couldn't hear it.
So, the question that I was asking you is that how do you think through your approach you can actually say that the creativity or the learning curve has gone up in your beneficiaries? Like, how do you think you can promised that. And we've heard actually, like what Sonal has already said and Siska already mentioned, is that it is not probably quantification that we are looking at, or it is not possible for us to quantify or even kind of tangibly show. But how do you think that there is any measurement that you can actually say that those people who are working with you, or those children who have been part of your program, have been better off than those who are just being part of a formal school system?
Oh, I think they've already touched on many parts of the answer to this question. Something that we do is we do measure retention. So just on the academic side, I'm a bit on the opposite end of the spectrum because I'm always asked for my numbers. Nobody has ever asked me how much more creative they are, even though that's what I would rather present. But people always ask me, so how much better do they do in standardized tests? We do, because standardized tests aren't perfect, we do measure retention. So they're unannounced exams that we compare to classes that haven't had a Jeepneed lesson. And they don't take notes at all during our lessons. And we don't announce when they're going to have the exam or the little test. And it's not a multiple choice test, it's a situation test. And we do see that they retain 70% more than the classrooms that haven't had a Jeepneed class. So that's still a test that we're continually perfecting, and still something that we administer and try to measure. I do on the end of, I think, metrics on the stories that we're able to tell because we are here and we're doing different work. I agree that it is so important to be able to track those stories, what we see with kids before, and how we see them relate to others and perform in front of others now. I'm also just, let's see, I think that one of the things that tells me that we are working, apart from the tests and the knowledge part, is that when we pull out of schools, or for some reason teachers think that it's too much of a distraction from traditional teaching time, and that has happened with us. So we've ended our relationship with some schools that have we've had some friction with, and the students ask for us back, and so the teachers are asked to sort of take back what they say and say, hey, can you come back to our schools and still continue to help us, because the students want you back. In the Philippines, unfortunately, students are classified according to slow learners and fast learners, and teachers themselves see, oh, I thought that kid was a slow learner, but he's talking. He understands what you're doing, and he's working with others. How did why did we classify them as a slow learner? So to be able to change teachers' minds who've been teaching for 10, 15 years, I think is another part of the affirmation that yes, they want us there. They'll fight for us to be there. And another one is to recommend their friends that, okay, we see our kids are happier and more engaged. And I think just as Siska sees parents referring other parents to their program, so seeing that other people also see the value is another way to sort of measure the scope and the ability to spread.
Thank you so much. So it's time for us to conclude. It's a very interesting discussion. I think we can go on because there are so many aspects that we still need to kind of explore and discuss. And it is a very good kind of, I think, kind of food for thought for us to look at how we all can work, because we all are working in, I mean, all of you, not we, I mean, Changemakers gives you the platform, but all of our community members in Reimagine Learning community are working on diverse areas, but the common theme is play. And we can also see that how each of you can also look at adding components of innovation in each other's work. So it will be interesting for us to continue this conversation either offline or through a chain of emails or through Facebook or something. But as of now, I would like to thank all of you for your time and for your views. And we also like to thank all our viewers, and we like to thank Ashoka Changemakers for organizing this wonderful panel session. Thank you, and we look forward
Thank you
to
so
working
much.
with you offline. Bye.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Indrani.
Thank you.
That was
Thank
great.
you.
Great.
Right. Bye. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.